Hey Anna,
Hey, Mike.
so we've just finished Billy's first 60 days of Antinol, and wow, what a difference.
Really? Oh my gosh, what have you noticed?
Well, he's shiner, he's much more energetic. Not that he wasn't beforehand, but you can see the difference. But remember, I told you he used to have that little limp in his back left paw that he'd hurt himself when he was a pup. But he
Yes,
doesn't seem
yes.
to do that much anymore.
What, the hop, skip, and the jump?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like his joints are a bit better. And we actually had friends around this weekend who'd noticed that there was something good about Billy. And I was telling them about Antinol, and they said, "Oh, what's in it?" I said, "Well, green lip mussel." And they said, "What's that?" And I go, "Oh, well, I don't know. I'll have to ask Anna," as I always do. So
Well,
for next
green,
time, what should I say? What's so great
well,
about green lip mussel?
green lip mussel, it comes from New Zealand. It's the only place that green lip mussels live. And what's great about the green lip mussel is that it is what's known as a broad spectrum source of omega 3. And the reason dogs need to take omega 3 is that their bodies don't make it themselves. So, unless they're getting it through, their diet, which can be omega 6 heavy. And it's very important to have a balance between omega 6 and omega 3. So it's normally through supplements that omega 3 is given. And green lip mussel is unique in its having everything from EPA, DHA, and ETA. So all the main omega 3s.
And how about Binks and Prudence? They must be much better as well.
Yeah, well, they've been on it for over a year and they've been on green lip mussel forever since I've had them. So Prue's 10 now. So she's had green lip mussel since the first day I brought her home, to be honest, but not Antinol. And I only wish I'd discovered Antinol earlier. I really honestly mean that because it's an oil rather than a powder. So its bioavailability, that means, its effectivity to get absorbed quickly and efficiently by the body is greater.
So people listening now and they want to discover Antinol for themselves, where do they go?
Well, all you have to do is go to Antinol, antinol.co.uk, and then type in Anna Webb and get your special discount. Hello, I'm Anna Webb, and welcome to this week's episode of A Dog's Life, where we're going up to northern Norway to talk about a film called Folktales. And I'm joined today by the director, Heidi Ewing. And as ever, this episode is powered by Antinol. Heidi Ewing, thanks so much for joining us on A Dog's Life.
Oh, it's my great pleasure.
Well, Heidi, you're one of the directors of this most amazing film that I feel really privileged to have watched. Not least, I had the shock of my life when, so I hadn't actually read the press release before I'm just going to watch this film. And so when I heard lots of suddenly Scandinavian, Norwegian, and Swedish coming out of my laptop, I was like, what's going on? And then, of course, I just got sucked in. So explain a bit more.
Well, a few years ago, I read a book called Welcome to the Goddamn Ice Cube by Blair Braverman, and she is an American dog sledder. And in the second chapter, she talks about how her life changed when she was 17, when she attended a Norwegian folk high school in the wilds of northern Norway, and that it became a dog sledder, a dog person, and an outdoors woman. And I'd never heard of folk high school. And then I looked it up, and it's a very popular notion. There is chain of schools that you can go to in Denmark and Sweden and Norway. And it's a bit of a rite of passage. I guess we'd call it a gap year, but it's a lot more than that. And it's a place you go for 1 year to test yourself and try something totally new. And we started researching them, and we visited Norway, and we found the Positive Folk High School, which focuses on dog sledding as a method and as a way for young people to gain self-confidence. And we were hooked.
It was absolutely amazing. I mean, I loved it because I didn't know places like this existed either. You know, if people go around the world, don't they, traveling for a gap year, or there's lots of other things you can do. But to go into an environment where, certainly in the winter months, you know, you're talking about a very challenging climate to be working in, to be outdoors in. And that must have posed quite a few practical issues on the filming side of things, I'm sure.
Let's put it this way. If I had known how difficult it would be to photograph dog sledding and to make this film before we'd made it, I don't think it would exist. It was, it's always winter there. Basically, it's winter, through the end of May, mainly, and where we were filming. And our drones kept falling out of the sky, and the batteries wouldn't charge, and we would have to hike for many kilometers to get to the location at all. And the polar night is 2 months of total darkness. So the only light source we had were headlamps for outdoor shooting. It was a series of puzzlements and, real obstacles for shooting. And we just treated it like a game. How are we going to solve this puzzle today? How are we going to pull this off? And we kind of took that approach with our Norwegian crew. And I think the result is pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I can only imagine it, to be honest with you. And having, my mum is Swedish, or was Swedish. So, going to Sweden was quite normal for me, and experiencing lots of snow was normal. But, actually going out to survive in those temperatures, particularly for these teenagers, what you saw through the film was something I felt quite sad about. On one hand, that we're so now tied to smartphones and this kind of new kind of technology ruled world. It was just brilliant to see these young kids, not rely on that, not reach for their smartphones and have to become, self-sufficient in this challenging landscape, like life-changing stuff.
Well, it's interesting because they're not forced to get rid of the smartphone. They're not banned. They don't have to turn them in. It's not a punitive place. But what we saw was, over time, the natural world, the dogs, the skiing, the trees, the forest, started to compete with the smartphone, because IRL, in real life, turned out to be a lot more fun than scrolling on their phones and watching other people in other places around the world do stuff, which is what a lot of, Instagram and TikTok is. Instead, they were doing stuff. They were out hunting, and they were hiking, and they were ice skating, and they were ice fishing, and like going to the sauna with friends and shooting the breeze. Like, they were no longer interested in watching other people do things, because they were actively out there living their lives. And it was astonishing to see, and also so simple, right? Like, there are things that can compete with the device. You just have to find out what those things are. And in this case, it was the natural world for these kids.
Yeah, I could believe that, because I mean, we're talking a natural world that you have to focus and concentrate, or you might, drown under the ice.
Yeah, you need two hands. Yeah, you need two hands to do everything there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what I mean? So there's no time to think about, oh gosh, I better quickly log on to TikTok and see if I've got any more followers,
exactly.
Which is, in comparison, I don't think I could find a word to describe it. I mean, obviously it's better for me, I believe, being 60 years old and half Scandinavian, to be ice skating and being outdoors. And of course, the dogs in it. Now, that really interested me, because this is a dog podcast. So the Siberian huskies that were there at the kind of base camp, they lived there, didn't they, all year round?
Yeah, there's over 40 dogs in the dog yard, and they're actually Alaskan huskies. There's only two Siberian huskies. There were two Siberian huskies there, because really the Siberian huskies are kind of divas. They're like the supermodels. They're beautiful, but kind of slow. So Alaskan huskies are like uniquely suited for dog sledding. And so you see, and they're kind of like, they look more like mongrels. And they're different kinds of dogs than the dogs I think we have in our homes. They're very demanding. They have very specific needs. They have to run. They have to exercise. They look you straight in the eye. They jump right on you, and they like put their paws around your neck, and they're like, let's go. Talk to me now. Feed me now. Take me out now. They're like beautiful, beautiful beasts. They almost feel like more ancient and original as dogs, closer to a wolf in a kind of way. They live outside 12 months a year. And I just have never encountered the kind of intensity that these dogs bring.
having so many Siberian and other sled dogs around, that must have really contributed to, the teenager's journey.
Yes, there were some really sort of introverted students and some students with social anxiety. And basically, any time of day or night, you could go to the dog yard and you would see students cuddling with dogs, taking them out walking, taking them out skiing, just sitting with them, petting them. They were a real source of compassion and understanding and calm to most of the students. And in fact, the crew, we would land in Posvik, and the first thing we'd do was go visit the dogs in the dog yard. They all sort of would select a dog that they liked the most, and usually it was a dog that was similar to them. So the extroverted students had extroverted dogs. The introverted students were more attracted to the quiet dogs. So they really sort of casually would adopt a favorite and spend the whole year basically with that dog, especially when they would go out into the forest for the solo nights, when they had to go out by themselves and build a fire and survive for 2 nights in the freezing cold. They each took a dog. And so, no, the dogs were extremely deeply integrated into the experience of these young people.
Amazing, isn't it, just to keep about these dogs? So these dogs obviously knew this was their purpose, because I assume every summer a new load of children would go there. So these dogs would have their kind of one person for a year at a time, but understanding that their real belonging was their pack.
Yes, that's true. They really are. These particular dogs felt more like pack animals. I mean, there's a lot of conversation now today that dogs are actually not pack animals and either really are wolves in some ways. So we've kind of misunderstood that. But in this case, these dogs, the consistency was each other and the 2 main teachers, Iselin and Toratla, who take care of them. And they understand that the students, they come and they go. And they've learned a great deal of patience throughout the years in having to sort of adapt to different personalities every year after year.
That's so interesting. But, all dogs really like attention in the right way. So I guess, it's wonderful for these dogs, to have so much attention and stimulus, really. And, understanding different people, because, dogs and even, more wilder types of sled dog, they all have the ability to be man's best friend. I mean, it's interesting, actually. I mean, I did a podcast that's just aired this weekend about new science highlighting that dogs were shaped from wolves into different shapes and sizes way before we actually thought they were. So way over 11,000 years ago. So it's interesting because certainly, the Alaskan sled dogs, and I think the Greenland dog is the oldest known dog rather than a wolf, which is interesting because, of course, they are more similar looking to a wolf.
Oh, that's so interesting. I mean, the whole story of dog domestication, I know it's for another podcast, but the idea of self-domestication, the dogs that were the most friendly to humans are the ones that bred with each other and became the dogs that we have today. And it's just, you really see that affinity to human beings up close and personal when you're out with sled dogs, because really the sled dogs and the humans only have one another, and they're in this wilderness environment, and they really are relying on each other to survive. So I think the bond it's extremely touching to watch in person.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to be honest with you, it's something I've always wanted to do. Go out with some sled dogs.
Oh, you'd love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I know, I would. It's just that I hate the cold so much. I mean, I'm moaning about it at the moment in my flat in Hackney in London because I think it's so cold.
No, but what we learned is it's just the clothes. Like the Norwegians teach you how to dress. No cotton, no spandex, no stretch material, only wool. Layers, and wool. And honestly, we survived, and we didn't think we would.
Gosh, Shona, that's quite saying something, actually. And I bet you felt so much stronger for having done it.
Oh, yeah. Now I gather my own kindling and I go out in the woods and I have my own knife. And yeah, I changed the crew as well as the students we were following.
But it was interesting in the film. Now, I must get the characters right because it was a couple of weeks ago I watched it. I think it was Roman, and he was having real problems lighting a fire, as you would.
Roman. Yes,
Roman. And, he had a bit of a temper tantrum, didn't he? Which I could totally relate to. But he knew he had to go back to it and light that fire because otherwise he'd be very cold and might freeze to death. So it's kind of overcoming your Oh, with the word tantrums, you see it when I train dogs. Dogs have similar things. You get to there's a point of total frustration where almost you have to let a task go and then actually get a grip and redo it because you have to succeed. But that's a very challenging characteristic. And I think people don't push them. Am I making any sense at all here, Heidi?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that, the teachers at the Positive Folk High School, and all folk high schools, they teach people that you can't really skip steps. You can't skip steps. You got to do things one after. And when you're talking about wilderness and survival and building a fire or training a sled dog, you cannot skip steps. You do it in order, and you have to show patience. You have to try it again, and you've got to choose the right sticks. You've got to break them in the right length, and you've got to be facing the wind in the right way. There's all these ways to make a fire, and it's very, very frustrating. And it's one of the main tenets of the Positive Folk High Schools that everyone has to be able to do that in case they get stuck in the woods or fall off the sled. And they go around, and there's certain tree barks that ignite faster, the birch trees. So they're always scraping birch trees, or what they call tir, which is like the inside of a tree. It's like the root, it's pine root. And they go looking for that. And they have these little burn bags. And, it's really, there's like a method to survival out there in the wilderness. And those students are taught it. And it is very frustrating. What you see in the film is one student just thinks he can't do it. He thinks it's a step too far. He shouldn't have agreed to come out in the forest and spend 2 nights by himself. He's terrified. But you see in the film that somehow, by some way, even Roman, who didn't believe in himself, finds a way to build that fire. And actually, it's exhilarating to watch somebody fail and struggle and try and actually succeed just in that most simplistic way, in the most elemental thing, which is just to build a fire to keep yourself alive.
It was amazing, actually. And also, I just loved the way that the whole landscape really evoked all of the mythology and, if you like, almost paganism of Scandinavia, where, you'd have trolls. So I love
Absolutely.
trolls.
Ice giants and trolls around every corner. I mean, the place felt ancient. It's the very low density of population. You can, go for many, many kilometers and not see any human. It's forest, it's ice, it's the border with Russia. It's a very stark landscape. And we started to believe that maybe the myths might have been written there because, the story of Odin and Thor and all their like trials and tribulations and, what it took for them to overcome. And, it just felt like a place where maybe the myths were born. And, there was this amazing tree that we kept photographing, and we started calling the tree Yggdrasil, the tree of life, which is, an elemental aspect of Norse mythology. And so we started playing around with those concepts. And you see in the film, there's a visual motif and a motif that, where we delve into some of the myths. And we thought that they were a really good pairing, the myth with growing up and all the trials and tribulations of becoming an adult. So we dove into it, and you'll see in the film that we weave in the Norse mythology in a kind of a fun way.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, there was one tree in particular that you just mentioned. Yeah, there's a big wrapping ceremony and an unwrapping ceremony, kind of, I thought was a symbol of before and after.
Yes, that's exactly what the intention was. And the schools are really interested in rituals, like the sun is gone for 2 months, and then one day the sun, finally comes over the horizon for the first time, and they do a ritual, the return of the sun, and they all greet the sun. And there's a lot of sort of paganistic type rituals, and it's the kids just loved it.
Yeah, I bet. And light in Scandinavia is, it's limited. So I know, yeah, Scandis tend to be sun worshippers, that's for sure.
Oh
because
yes, and a lot of kids had like heat lamps and sun lamps in their bedrooms because it was very difficult during the polar night to keep your mood up.
Yeah. 'Cause it's a very short daytime, but
Yeah.
I mean, just amazing. I mean, when you were up there, I mean, how long were you there for, Heidi?
Well, I have a co-director, and the two of us took turns going. And so every month or every 6 weeks, one of us would go for 2 weeks. So we had 100 shooting days, and we shot for the entire school year. So we were there. One of us was there every month, basically.
Wow, yeah, amazing. Did you find a dog that, you kind of bonded with?
You know, we loved all the dogs. We just no, we did not discriminate. I mean, I really was grateful just for their presence. There was one dog called Nudie, and Nudie is like the first dog you see in the movie, and she's just sitting on the top of her house staring at the camera. She's loved being photographed. She always had this like sly, coy, cute look on her face. She always could find the camera and was always like, ready to pose. And we just loved her because she was like ready. She was sometimes the students didn't want to be filmed, but the dogs always wanted to be filmed. They were very happy to see us. And Nudie, I guess, would be my favorite. She was a real sweetheart.
I mean, when you think how the dogs, they were just brilliant. So it's that amazing scene where I'm not sure if it's Roman or if I'm getting my characters muddled, but out on his own with the instructor behind, on a different sled. And I think there's 6 dogs and he's handling all 6 dogs, which I can imagine is quite challenging through this thick snow going uphill. And then suddenly he gasps and there is an elk. And I remember elks from, my childhood, because I saw a herd of elk once when I was tiny in the back of the car, charging along. We were parallel to some woods and it really freaked me out. It freaked me out. And I'd think I'd have nightmares about these elks, you see. Anyway, so there was this elk and with her calf and just looking massive and like a silhouette against all of the white because they're quite ugly. They've got these sort of beard things, haven't they? The elk, they're a bit different.
It was amazing to see this elk, this moose that they're going along and he'd never seen one, and she had her baby with her, and we were able to capture it. We had our drone in the sky and we actually were able to capture this sequence, this scene. And it's such a beautiful moment because there's a real sense of wonder that comes out of him. And he's a person, he's a character who's, a bit stoic. He's Dutch and he's very self-critical. And the child sort of emerged from him in this moment when he saw this moose and the baby. And, that's why we make documentary films, to capture unexpected moments of wonder and to sort of, in this case, with this film, renew our, belief in humanity and the power of the animal world and the power for animals and humans to connect. And it all sort of wrapped up in this one moment we were shooting. And I remember it very well. I was there on a snowmobile in a cart being dragged behind a snowmobile filming. And it was very, very satisfying to see that the child sort of come out of this kid again.
Yeah, gosh, that's so great that you were there because that moment in the film, it's a big moment. Don't want to give any spoilers away, actually. But in terms of your company, Loki Films, I mean, it was Loki Films named because Loki is also, a Norse god.
Isn't that a funny coincidence? We named Loki Films in 2001 when we opened the company. And basically, we were very unfamiliar with Norse mythology. But my business partner's friend had just had a baby and named the kid Loki. And we thought Loki was a cute, fun little name. And we're like, oh, it's the Norse god of mischief. That's cool. And then now that we know the Norse mythology, Loki was a total bad dude. He was up to no good. He was kind of a sadist. And I'm like, I cannot believe we named our company after Loki, but it's too late now because we've been around for too long. But it was a very funny thing for us to actually start reading the stories of Loki and like how devilish he really was.
Yes. But, I think that all these gods are like extremes. And I think the idea is that generally in life, they kind of modify, but everyone has a little bit of everybody in them, if that makes sense. So we've all got a bit of a cheeky troll in us somewhere.
We do. We all have a little devil inside.
Exactly. And listen, Loki's produced a number of films that have all, won Emmys, multi-award winning films. So, what are your hopes for Folktales?
Well, my hope for Folktales is that as many people as possible get to see it in the theater, especially because it is a real big screen experience. It was meant to be seen with other people in a dark room where you can laugh. And there are some tears in the movie. And we thought our hope is that people see it as a communal experience, that they bring their kids. And I would say like 11 and up is good. Teenagers love the movie. And I just feel like it has, a strangely broad appeal because we've all had to go through the things in the film that the students are going through. It's something about growing up. People will remember what it feels like, even if they're on in years. So my hope is that people see it together, and it kind of like is, like I said, a way to like renew our faith a little bit in humanity and the wonders of the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's amazing. And I also think, the sled dogs should be entered, for a Fido's Award, which is the canine Oscars, Heidi, that we have in the UK that's run by, a great friend of mine. We've done podcasts together called Toby Rose. He's a cinema journalist. I know he's seen Folktales, actually. So I should imagine it's all on the cards.
I would love that. And maybe best ensemble dog.
Yeah, exactly. Or, perhaps the most meaningful impact moment. There are different moments that are celebrated, actually. There are the best moments. Anyway, we'll say that. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I know. Romantic rom-com is another one. And there's Blockbuster Bowser is another category that comes to mind. So, but it's
terrific. I love this concept. It's cool.
Yes, and let's try and make that happen.
Let's campaign for a Fido Award.
100%. Let's do it. Yay, come on the Fidos. And it's staged in London, so you'd have to jump across the pond for it, Heidi, and it'd be great.
No problem. It's a quick trip.
Exactly. It'd be lovely to meet you. Well, look, thank you again for joining us today and for Folktales, because honestly, I really enjoyed the film. It really impacted on me a lot. So I urge everyone to watch it as well. Will it be coming to the mainstream cinemas soon?
I don't know I know it's coming to some indie cinemas. It's coming in the first week of December. And after that, we'll see.
Okay, great. So, well, thanks again, Heidi. And I really hope to stay in touch. Okay.
Thank you, me too. Perfect.
Bye for now. That's our show, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again, of course, to film director Heidi Ewing for joining us today. Thank you to Mike Hansen, my producer, for all the music and production as ever. And of course, if you're interested in finding out more about Antinol, simply go to their website, and at checkout, you can put in my code, which is AnnaWebb, and benefit from your discount. And of course, if you haven't already, go on, subscribe, because it's free and you'll never miss another show. Bye for now.